Welcome to the Yoked Podcast, where we talk about all things entrepreneurship, real estate, and partnerships. I'm your host, Travis Hall, alongside my co-host and wife, Ingrid. Together, we've been in real estate for nearly 2 decades, always as an equally yoked husband and wife team.
Join us each week as we bring you a new episode. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, follow along, and welcome to this week's episode of
The Yoked Podcast. What's up, and welcome to this week's episode of the Yoked Podcast. I'm Travis, and this is Ingrid.
Hi.
And we are excited to be here today. Today is a short one, and we're going to talk all about failing in real estate.
Yay.
All about failures. You know, we both feel like culture and TV and media, like, man, it really romanticizes real estate investing. And I mean, it can be like super awesome and fun, but it can be hard, and you can lose money. And so today we're going to talk about that.
I think about like all of those like documentaries or something, shows where like at the very end, it's like a black screen with white writing. And they're like, at the time of this recording, they had not responded, or
unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, like 90 days later, they lost $100 million.
Right.
It's not quite that bad.
It is not. But the interesting part is that this past year, so 2024, for us, was a strange year because it was our best year we've ever had as realtors. Our realtor role,
yes,
we crushed it.
I know.
We had a great year. It was awesome. It was super
worked
fun.
With some incredible clients.
Absolutely. It really was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And on the same breath, our investment side arm, it was our worst year we've ever had.
Ever.
We've never, and like, we always knew that we would at some point have a deal that swung and you missed, and you lost money. Because it's just a numbers game. All the books say it, and we thankfully had never had a loss.
No, they say if you haven't had a loss yet, you just haven't been doing it long enough.
Right. And so we had, that was us until not anymore. Because 2024, it was a doozy. It was a hard one. I mean, the market was hard. There were so many factors.
Yep.
But let's just talk through those a little bit, because it does help. At least for me, I'm a big fan of learning through failing, because, and others, like somebody else did something and they failed and they learned a lot. Like I want to try to learn from them too. And so I had a conversation the other day with a buddy, Brian. He's like, dude, thanks for being honest about like your failures, because he's like, he's an engineer type.
Sure.
And I think he is an engineer, right? And he said, that's just how I learn. I learn through failures. And so thanks for being authentic and real. I was like, you bet, buddy.
No problem.
Learn from mine. So we had a couple losses last year, but let's just talk about a couple of them, because and like what we thought happened, and some advice.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Raleigh.
Okay.
Because
I love that house.
There were several things we learned about it. It was a flip. It's beautiful. But talk about, I'm going to interview you. So talk about like what happened?
Well, essentially, single family home in a desirable neighborhood up and coming
here in Denver.
And a great deal. Bought it from a wholesaler. And
I should add that we had just closed a deal that we did great on
in the neighborhood,
in the exact same layout for the most part.
Yep.
In the same neighborhood, same layout.
This is like a rinse and repeat for us, except nothing about flipping is rinse and repeat, especially for me, because I'm always going to change the design just a little bit because it's fun.
I would rinse and repeat.
Yeah. But we purchased it from a wholesaler. And one of the great things about this property is that it had a ton of the major systems all complete, brand new, roof, sewer, all the flat work. And
HVAC.
So, those are really pricey. Like right now, we say you are not under 10,000. Like you have to start at 10,000 for all of your trades here in the Denver market, at least. And so we felt great about this property and started working on it. And I think it got broken into 3 times.
Maybe 4.
Maybe 4 times.
Like guns drawn, the cops came, like
next level stuff.
And that's a quick tip. make sure you put an alarm on your properties.
Ooh, I'll one better you. Put your alarm on and then register it with the city it's in.
That's a good point. The first time they wouldn't come.
Yeah, they didn't come.
Because they're like, oh, your alarm permit's not registered. We're like, oh.
Great.
And a second tip, get to know the neighbors.
Oh,
the
my
neighbors
gosh,
were our biggest asset. They would call us, and they're like these 3 like 80-year-old ladies. So
they're
nice.
Just so nice.
Yeah, but yeah, keep going.
Yes. So really felt like we were on the right track for it. And we overlooked one incredibly strong detail, which was location. And at the end of the day, and this is how we coach a lot of our buyer clients too, there are 3 things that matter the most, I think, in purchasing a property, which is location, lot, and layout. You cannot change a location and you cannot change a lot of your property. You can change the layout. It just is really expensive.
Loosely change the layout. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we coach clients, like we're never going into a property looking at paint color. We look past that. And so we overlooked the fact that it sided to one of the more major streets in the city.
And it was like, we knew it.
Was it a double yellow street?
No, it was just, it was a residential, but through street, like a cut through street. Like I think the speed limit's like 30. So it's not like a crazy busy street, but it was a, major street. And we thought, and we were just wrong. We thought that we're like, well, let's factor that in, but let's overcome that objection by making an amazing product and beautiful. And like, let's talk about that.
Incredible
because
finishes.
We did that.
It shined. I mean, we had all the things you're supposed to have, plus some in flips, very a little mid-mod. I mean, rich colors, staged to the nines, truly like finished really well. We over finished it.
We did.
For the location, certainly. And I will say that that was the last property that we GC'd our own project. Since then we've hired a GC and used them, and it's been great. Doesn't necessarily mean you make money, but certainly when you are GCing your own property, unless you're there literally every single day babysitting trades, it takes longer. It just does. And so we entered the market at a less than opportune time.
It was in October.
Yeah, which is right when it's starting to dip.
Of 2023, I should say.
Yep, that's true.
Is when we listed it. And so we knew the market wasn't great, but we're like, let's just try. And there was another flip 3 doors down that was similar price. And
not as nice.
Not as nice. And ours was better. We talked to the listing agent. She was like, oh my gosh, your house is so much better. And the feedback was the same. And that property sold
months
before ours, because they're like, oh, all the feedback was, oh my gosh, your house is unreal. It's beautiful. I can't believe it. But it just backs to the street.
Yeah, it sides to the street. And it didn't even back, it sided to it. And it's not even a major street. But and halfway through escrow, we had or not during escrow, but right after listing, we had a break-in. That was the last break-in, and half of the staging stolen. I mean, truly, like, it was a battle. It was a battle.
It was a battle.
But we ended up closing and gave a concession, because at that time rates had really started to go up, held it too long, and I think lost $1,500.
I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think we lost anything. We just didn't make anything.
That's for sure.
It was a break even. But we did get our price. We knew that we were not overpriced, and we joked that we were just like Braveheart, like on the battle line, at least for me, like, oh, Mel Gibson.
Sometimes when you're really, really confident in the appraised value, you can eventually talk a buyer into paying that because you know it's going to appraise.
Well, and we just waited. We knew the market had to pick up, and it did. It was like the first decent weekend in January, and we had like 15 showings.
Yeah.
And
wild.
Yeah, it was great. We had multiple offers and didn't go over asking, but we got our actual price with a pretty hefty concession, like you said. So,
but one of our most beautiful projects,
and a huge learn on the location.
Yeah, we
had heard, we just didn't heed the warning. Like the warnings of like, hey, if it backs to or sides to this, then you should discount it this. Our, internal idea of, well, we'll just overcome it by beauty was not true.
So let's quickly tell the audience then how we didn't learn that lesson about location at all in that year and quickly made the same mistake.
A similar mistake.
Similar mistake. Talk about Niagara briefly.
We closed on that property, and within like 2 weeks, we're like, let's get another one. And so we did. We found one, Denver as well, wholesaled, great price, numbers, math perfect. It's on Niagara. Great property. And, in an upcoming neighborhood, there was a comp that, totally supported our price that we were running. And we were running, there was a comp at 735 after repair value, ARV. A comp is comparable sale. It was at 735. And so we're like, well, that one's location is probably a little better. And it's really nice. Let's take ours down to 700 just to be conservative. And so we did. The trick is, and usually for us, when we buy flips, they're normally the worst house.
Yeah.
They're the worst house in the neighborhood. And so you're fixing it up. The neighbors always appreciate it. And they're like, this is great. Thank you so much for clearing out all the stuff. Well, we didn't really pay attention to that. We learned our lesson because it wasn't the worst looking house.
No. Where was the worst looking house?
It was our next door neighbor.
It was next door.
And they were lovely people. We did talk to them multiple times. She inherited it from her mom and but there was the cars on the driveway.
Couches out front.
A trailer out front full of just stuff. And
the yard was just full of dogs and dogs.
It just looked dumpy.
Feces, yeah. It was, honestly, we overlooked how important the siding to a neighbor is going to be for somebody who's not purchasing this as an investment.
They're going to live there.
They're going to live there.
Well, and it kind of partnered that with, it was a buyer's market.
Yes, it was.
It's not, 2024 was not a great seller's market. It was really difficult. And so all those things combined, the neighbor, and how do you overcome that? How do you overcome, well, look at the neighbor. I don't want to live next to that. It's like,
okay,
but they're really nice. You should talk to them. And so, that was another swing and a miss. And that was the market punishing us as well as, and we have to own the fact that we didn't learn our lesson.
No.
And we didn't learn our lesson in evaluating. We were excited and blinded by the deal of oh, this is a great opportunity. We're ready. Let's do it. And let's make up for what we just, didn't get.
Yes.
And it was a great learning lesson.
That one also got broken into. Just the sunroom, though. Gosh. They used our water. The homeless people wanted to use our water. So eventually we had to turn the water off.
Shout out to my dad and to Seth for
going to saving our tickets.
Help us with that while we were on our trip.
Yes.
But we had a GC on that one. We learned a lot. We did not go there a lot.
Nope.
It was fully managed by GC, and it was a great experience.
But very few change orders. Really, that was a positive. Okay, we can do this.
Right, it was. But once again, we had to discount to get a buyer.
And how much did we end up losing on that one?
30.
Yeah,
it was
a bummer.
A total bummer. It was
it was beautiful too. Another really pretty house.
It was a beautiful home, but.
Okay, let me tell the audience one thing I was so proud about for that house. So, in a lot of the flips, you try to change the layout as little as possible. We won't buy a flip if we look at the house and we say, there's no way to make this god-awful layout work.
If you have to start over, it's
if you have to start over, like where you can only get to the yard through a bedroom, that's major. Those are major renovations in terms of layout. Well, we needed to borrow space from somewhere upstairs to make a double vanity and a bathroom work. I used the hallway.
Yeah, it was this goofy hallway. There was
so
no
proud.
Point of the hallway.
No, it was 0 point.
But all the houses had it. And it was it was super creative. And by doing so, you added a full pantry and you made the bathroom bigger.
Yeah, for
just
a double
by
vanity.
Extending the walls into the hallway. And so the living room stayed the same. Mm-hmm. It was just dead space of a hallway for whatever reason.
Yeah. So that
was pretty creative.
And then obviously you're not moving structural walls.
Yeah, nothing.
So if you're ever looking for a little bit more space on a flip, think about taking the hallway.
That was clever.
Or your own house.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from that one. So our final learning lesson for last year, and honestly, we're in the middle of a luxury flip right now.
We are.
So 15 years into this business, we took on a huge project last year. Really excited about it. It'll come on the market in mid-April this year, multi-million-dollar flip. And that is its own source of lots of learning lessons.
So many.
And stress. I mean, anytime you're going to increase the price.
It's exciting and it's stressful because it's like you make one change, you're like, oh, that's a $10,000 change because the house is 7,000 square feet or whatever it is.
Right.
And
so
it's different.
We'll have another episode just dedicated.
We should have a recap once that one's done and it's live. Because that one, we're proud of that one. I mean, we're pushing $4 million on the actual sale price.
Yes.
We're hoping to, God willing. But which is awesome and exciting. But it also comes with its own totally different share
of challenges. And so let's talk about Le Pan, because challenges on this one last year were twofold for us.
Yes.
It was our very first partnership on a flip that did not go well. And we had partnered on some flips before in a different capacity, but really we were in charge of it. And this one, we were trying to learn how to leverage our business and how to make it scalable. Obviously, a lot of that can be done through partnerships. And so we tried it and it did not go well. But also another example of the market just punishing us.
Yeah.
So tell us about that one.
And this one is interesting because we talked about it in our, launch podcast of like a detriment of mine that I'm constantly working on. And that is just like this, I'm a glass half full guy all the time,
Polly.
which is, I do love, but it's just like in this example, it bit me in the butt. Of like being willing to like partner with somebody without really vetting like I should and calling out all of the things. What happens if?
Yeah.
I tend to just like, let's just go, let's do it. And so learned a lot from that. We knew these people and I doubt they're listening because of obvious reasons. But I'm not going to say their names. But we knew these people. They were great people. Worked alongside them and we partnered. Like we're like, hey, let's partner on this deal. They wanted to learn flipping, and they've been in the real estate world for a while.
And one of the great ways to partner on flipping is when somebody else brings you the deal.
Right.
Everyone always says, I want to partner on a flip. I want to partner on a flip. And I think a great response that we've had for that is bring us a deal. We're happy to hold your hand and walk you through it. But the finding of the deal is the hard part.
Right. And so, we did that. And they brought the deal, construction management experience. And so this whole idea, which, I mean, again, in hindsight, it's like, that was so dumb of us to like, actually, I mean, it's on us to like, why did we actually think that would work? But this whole idea of we were going to kind of be on the back end, the capital side, and they were going hands off, passive, quote unquote, for this flip. And so we started. And I don't know, like initially the commitment was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get this thing done in 2 months. And Ingrid and I were both like, hey, we love that. But that's just not real. Like this is not real for a full flip, but good on you. Like keep up the enthusiasm.
Gusto.
Yeah. Well, fast forward, 6 months?
Yeah.
We're still involved. But we're getting heavily involved because it's just not moving forward the way it should. And it's not.
And it's not 100%.
Not at all. There's multiple things. GC, stop work order while the permit was being issued. Like this whole issue with, the neighbor called the stop work order, even though we had a GC doing the permit.
We had the permit.
I know.
It just wasn't on the dang screen door.
They taped the stop work to the screen door, to the literal screen, and it's
when
winter.
It's 30 out. Guess what? It fell off.
And then they slapped a new one on. It was like, if you're gonna, it just,
anyway,
gotta love it. But so fast forward to we get that on the market finally.
Yes.
We've
missed the market
3 months late, maybe 4
on the project, but now we're also about a month and a half late to the market.
But I mean, like we were 4 months late from when we initially thought we'd be on the market.
Yes. Yep.
We get on the market in June, and we, like you said, it was a beautiful place, and the location was amazing. Back to a park, absolutely stunning. Like we loved it. It was a little on the smaller side for the neighborhood. It was only 2,000 square feet total, But I mean, the same thing, like made up for it on the finishes. It looked incredible.
Learned our lesson on location. Location was knocked out of the park.
Oh, location was knocked out of the park. But interest rates were like at 7 and the buyer sentiment was super low. We had lots of showings. And then one thing in Denver that we've done this multiple times, but we always list, when we have a house like this, we always list it in the spring. So like February, March is when we're April. And this house did not have air conditioning. Yeah. Which is not like
or sprinklers.
And so 2 things that in the summer in Denver, you notice. When you walk into a showing and the house is 90 degrees, you're like, for the love of God, what is happening right now?
I'm not buying this.
But in the spring, like it's so easy to overlook that because it's the heater works. And there are a lot of houses that don't have air conditioning. All the newer ones do, or some type of air. But there was that strike. The lawn started dying, and the partnership was just at this like lots of tension.
Yeah.
Which sucked. It really did suck. And so fast forward, it didn't get sold till the fall.
And I will say that a investor ended up purchasing it for a rental. And I think that came down to size because we did have interested parties, but it was just the size ended up being the kicker because we put in an irrigation system and air conditioning.
Yeah, we did.
And we did it too late. Like that was a great learning lesson. It's like, okay, if you're going to do those things, can you just learn your lesson fast, fail fast, right? Move on, remedy it, fix it, and get done.
Well, in a market like that we were in, like the buyers, they wanted a fully finished product.
Yeah.
And again, like the AC and the sprinklers, that easily gets overlooked in the spring.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessary then. But in the summer, the whole thing needs to be done. And so it's like, if I'm paying this price, the whole thing needs to be done. And I expect it to be done.
Yep. And I would say...
And they had the leverage to say that.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly made mistakes and we've learned lessons on it. But at the end of the day, like a mistake that gets made in a bad market magnifies it. And the market just punished us big time. So how much do we lose on that?
Around 50.
Yeah. And we had to absorb 100% of it because of a bad written contract. Just not enough clarity in our partnership agreement. And at the end of the day, as we've learned, going and seeking what is rightfully yours is very different than actually being able to collect on it.
Right. We learned a ton.
Yeah.
That was painful.
Masterclass.
But holy cow, it really was of like, I mean, contracts matter. You know, like my knucklehead of like, let's do it. And here's a contract. It's like, I still love that, but like, you got to have people in your corner that are looking through the dirty work for you. You know, like looking through all those things. So it was a great learning lesson.
All right. 3 properties, 3 losses last year.
Yay.
Yay. What a fun
but
year.
We're still here and we're still doing it.
Yes.
Because for us, I mean, we definitely took those experiences once the wound started healing. we took them and we whiteboarded and like, hey, like, what did we learn? Because if you don't learn through that, like,
what's it for?
And so we just got a very expensive master's
and that's an
degree.
$80,000 master's degree in how to fail in fix and flips on a hard market.
Exactly.
So you better learn something.
And not to mention all of the time that we put in, you know, like time, effort, energy.
And time away from the kids. Like we weigh that all different. And so, yes, that was a year of learning. So.
Right. But we have one going right now, in addition to our luxury flip, that
with an incredible partnership.
We have
and incredible GC. We have had one change order for the entire project.
I've only gone to the property twice.
$1,300. That was our change order.
Yep.
Which for this size budget is incredible.
And that one goes on the market in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And it's going to be great. So
it's beautiful too.
It's like you learn a lot, and you're always learning.
And you get to keep going.
You got to keep going.
So, what would you tell the audience if they are coming off of a year of failing, or they're in a project right now that is failing, something is failing, learning from your fails? What do you have to be yoked to get through that?
That is such a good question. I think First of all, you got to be yoked to this idea that you are not a failure.
Yes.
You failed at something. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. You can bounce back. We just bounce back. And that the fails, if you're not failing at something, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. At some point you will fail.
You will. I mean, whenever I used to be a rock climber in college, I know rock climbing. But they would, my instructor, and we would say, if you're not failing or falling, you're not climbing hard enough. Mm-hmm. If it's just true, that's how you get better. That's how you stretch. And so, but it's easy to internalize it and say, oh my gosh, I am such a failure. Mm-hmm. And it's just not true. It's you failed. And so just changing your mindset around, I'm not a failure. And I am still going to push through, even though it was really hard.
Mine would be to seek advice from somebody who's far ahead of you.
Yeah.
It can be really hard when you are looking at losses and you've made mistakes and things have been done wrong to humble yourself, get rid of your pride, and go find somebody to give you some advice. But I remember you going out to the conference for Owners Club, and you did that. And you asked a couple of people, but it was really one. Julian. And he said, why would you do that? Just take your losses and move on. Fail fast. And truly, we are trying to get so creative, trying not to make these a loss and trying not to fail, turning them into long-term rentals. Can we rent them by the home, room? Can we do furnished finders? We thought of everything. And at the end of the day, the advice that we got that really was the best was fail fast.
Well, and he is unique. He's a lender and he's been in this business. He's an active investor, builder. He's done all of the things and he's been in it for 50 years.
Well, and that's why we're going to ask him.
I know. I'm hey, what? I went to him as hey, do you have a loan that you can give me that I can take out as, pay off my hard money lender? And, he was like, no, don't do that. Just cut your loss and be done. He's like, don't put good money after bad.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for him. Yeah.
So my advice
is not what I wanted to hear.
No, but go find somebody.
Find yourself a Julian.
A Julian who you can be yoked to give you advice that even if you don't want to hear it, it's going to be really important. So
it's true.
All right.
Well, hopefully we don't have lots more podcasts about failings, but hey, I mean, that's part of it is we wanted to be real and authentic and it isn't always amazing.
No.
But
thanks for listening.
When you're yoked to someone like Ingrid, it does make it easier.
Thanks, babe.
All right, cool. Well, okay. Where can people find you? Let's practice. We've been practicing.
Yes.
Every time.
You can find me on Instagram at the Ingrid Hall. Where can they find you?
And I am on all the socials at the Travis Hall as well.
Hit us up.
And then until next week, have a great one. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Yoked Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it.
And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along as we drop a new episode each week.